I'll make a motion to move that line item.
Got a motion,
Second.
second by Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Well, good morning, thanks for making time on the agenda for us, I'm Jimmy Powell, son at Sally's Lane. So I'll keep it fairly short and open it to questions, but obviously you guys are aware, we heard from the Public Utility Commission, and we were both in the Navigator hearing and our hearing a couple weeks ago, that go back and work with the counties, they passed ordinances, say yourself and 3 other counties, and so that's what we're doing. So in McPherson, essentially it's a blank sheet of paper. So we're working, Alex and his team are working, we've got the ordinance, we understand what the setback requirements are, et cetera. So we're working through that and seeing how that might have changed around, and can we even get through the county with those requirements? And so we're here just to take questions and see what the next steps are. What we'd like to do is put something on paper and then share it and get feedback on that. Both from a landowner perspective and from obviously the Commission of Planning and Zoning, any other parties that would be willing to provide some input into that process. So I'll
Yeah, I think just some of the things to add, right? I think that there's, well, one is kind of on the commitment of working with the counties. Myself and my wife, we're moving up here to, I guess, Aberdeen, so Brown County. So we'll be here kind of all the time to meet with whoever is available, wants to talk, has questions on the project. And then
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
I'm sorry.
And then I think the other one that we're working on, right, is transparency as well, right? So as of today, we have met with emergency managers in Spink County and Brown County. We have shown them our dispersion model, continuing to progress that, but I think the important thing there is we wanna make sure we're talking through that intelligently, giving the correct message, being able to answer questions that come up from that, instead of just blanketly sharing it to anyone. So we are kind of working through that process. It's not going to be an immediate process, but that is something that, I know there's been a lot of requests for dispersion modeling. What does it mean for us, the public, the county? So we're working through the mechanics of that as well, and rolling that one out.
So as of now, right now, there is no route whatsoever going through McPherson County. Okay, well, I'm on the planning and zoning board, in fact, I'm the chairman. And the first time around, you never once came to our board meetings, never once showed us a route, and that's not gonna happen. Okay? Our map and our zoning ordinances, you can get through the county if you get along with the people of the county. But if you come in here the way you did the first time, it ain't happening. And our ordinances are standing. We have them, they're in place, and they're gonna stand. So if you can get the easements, knock yourself out, but if not, go around it.
fair. I mean, so we'll put something on paper that satisfies the setbacks, et cetera.
Okay?
And then the next steps, obviously, we can go talk to landowners, but we'd also like to get some input, whether planning and zoning is the first step, whatever that may be, because there's, the largest impact's probably to the landowners, but there are the considerations as well, so I'm assuming from a
I
county
would
perspective.
think if you have somewhat of a plan of where you wanna put that thing, I think a good first step would be coming to a planning and zoning meeting, setting it before us, letting us look at it. It's probably not gonna be the easiest process, because obviously along the way, not everybody's gonna want their land in there. Want a pipeline on their land, and if they don't, that's fine, if they do, that's fine too, but it's their choice.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is, at least for routing perspective, is the application we had from the PUC, you guys know how this works. You establish a corridor. So we had a half-mile corridor on the other side, on the center line of the pipe on the other side. You get outside the corridor, the application's void. We don't have that restriction now. So that's why we wanna get it on paper. To your point, not repeat the mistakes of the past, get it on paper and get some good insight feedback from everybody involved, and then we can establish the corridor as we go through. So that would make it easier for everybody, I think.
How long until you establish that corridor?
I mean, we're there now with options, so the next planning and zoning, we haven't talked to landowners, so we wanted to get the options. And then get feedback from this group before we took the next steps. We didn't wanna go talk to landowners and unnecessarily cause them any concern or issue or have you think about it unless, you know, we got some feedback first, so that's kinda where we're at.
The next planning and zoning meeting is November 21st?
Yeah, I think, let me look here.
21st, I think. 20th or 21st?
21st, 9.
What I would encourage you to check the website, because that could get changed. And if you wanna be on the agenda, fine.
So in, like, what was it, January 4th of 2022 was the first time we were doing it up in Portland?
Mr. Piker, I was trying to remember, we came down, Jake Ketzer and I came down, and it wasn't in this room, it was a different.
Right, so there was,
Yeah, it was a long time.
So we spent a year and a half getting bluffed about us not being able to do anything in counties. And now we're in this position. Boy, you blew everybody's trust. And if you can work with these landowners, I think it's gonna be a miracle if you get anything done. I guess what I'd like to see is a commitment and you sign a piece of paper that you will not use eminent domain at all. If you can't get through without using it,
So what does that mean, if you can't get through that using, I mean, we can't sign it. We can't use it, I mean, there's not an infrastructure project built in this country, that at some point has to have to use that.
I guess that, the water lines, the power lines. Around here, I've never heard of one being,
Maybe intrastate, definitely not intrastate. So we can't.
then I think you got a problem.
And look, we can go around McPherson, but we prefer not to. So, we'd like to try to work with everybody involved. So, we'll try to get on the planning and zoning meeting on the 21st, and we'll take it from there. You know, you guys are in the driver's seat, so we'll see what happens.
Amazing we didn't hear that before.
I have a question for Mr. Jimmy. If ethanol plants are so polluting, why don't you shut them down? You shut down coal for electricity.
Sir, I didn't shut down anything.
The government did.
Yeah, but
Obama did.
for me, it has
But if
not,
they're putting out so much pollution, shut them down, they force
it has not, for me, it has
Hey,
not.
I'm just gonna cut in here, there's a time and place to have these discussions, this
Okay, I'll do
isn't
it
it.
tomorrow.
Well, this isn't it, that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Just a question.
Okay, so if I understand that the next step is get on that planning and zoning agenda, and do you wanna see anything in before that meeting, or wait till that meeting?
I'm not gonna go out my way.
Okay, I just want,
I
I
would-
just wanna understand the rules.
I would, if you guys have a proposed route through the county, and that's a map that can be provided to us, I'm not on any boards, I'm just a state's attorney, but I work extensively with, everybody on all the stuff we've been doing here lately. For me, I think it would be helpful to see that before the meeting, to be able to kind of see what you guys are looking at, where that's going and that kind of stuff. The more information, the better, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I mean, we can provide a lot of detail around property owners and everything along the maps, along the route, and look, we can even go option 1, 2, and 3. So we can have it depends on how much time you guys have to have a discussion.
There's, whatever route that you do choose or propose, there's gonna be a lot of time and effort involved in checking setbacks and making sure everything is right. So it's not gonna be something that happens overnight. yeah, a map
Understood.
beforehand would be handy.
Of all options, I mean, of all your options, I would say, if you have 1, 2, and 3, that provide them all.
And look, we'll provide those as soon as possible, it'll be well before November 21st, and if there's
Okay.
feedback before then, and we can take that feedback and incorporate it, great, if not, I get it. But we'll provide those
Okay.
in the next few weeks, and what's the right avenue? Is it through,
Either probably the director of equalization would be the person to get those. She's kind of the go-to point for anything that goes through the
Yeah.
zoning.
Yeah, it gets to me.
Yeah,
Hunter.
Hunter.
Probably.
Hunter's a he, not a she. He's the deputy, so,
is that Hunter?
yeah.
Okay.
But this is me.
Hunter, what's your last name?
Heinrich.
Heinrich. Okay. All right, so we'll get all that information packaged up, get it to Hunter, and then if we get feedback before then, great, if not,
Okay.
we'll be there on the 21st.
Fair enough?
All right. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
your time.
I thought I was.
No, I'll talk to you afterwards. I'm not trying to be here because I want this to turn into an argument session. It's not gonna get anywhere.
Well, McPherson County landowners. Who's speaking there?
I guess that was kind of interesting, but, keep into consideration here, you know, they appear to be being a little more amicable at the time, but, my analogy has been everybody just got kicked by a cow. And in my experience, you don't walk up behind that cow with that. And, you know, the eminent domain cases appear to be withdrawn. It's concerning to me that they do not want to attempt the outreach to the people and the landowners first. Why are they in here to negotiate with the county? This should be the landowner's decision. The county has set forth the rules by which they have to abide. But it's not like the county can just approve a route and then, well, now these landowners are stuck. Because what concerns me is by not swearing off the eminent domain, we don't want to put anybody in a position that that's what they could possibly be faced with. And so that is a hurdle that I'm, you know, a little uncertain about how to cross that. The other thing is, they've been putting out a lot of press about that there's a vocal minority that is speaking out on this particular project. And for me personally, it's never been specifically about the project itself, it's been about our property rights. And I think we've had a very good example about how poor they are in this state. Well, if we're able to move forward where property rights can be respected, maybe some of these things can coexist, but to this point, that's all been turned down. And I know there is a kind of a condensed few of us that, you know, are the spokespeople for this, but I've spoke to, at this point, several thousand people over the last 2 years, and I still can count on both hands the number of people that I've ever talked to that have been in support of this, and they all had one thing in common: they were either ethanol employees or ethanol board members. And I sympathize with their situation. But the way that they've gone about it isn't the right way to go about it. It just seems to be kind of a steamroll. And I know, I'm privy to some information that I can't talk about, but I know in the very near future, there's gonna be some polling results come out that are specifically going to state how overwhelming the support it is against, especially eminent domain, and for this particular project itself. Because, well, one of the problems, you know, ethanol, like us in agriculture, it's such a narrow issue anymore because there's so few of us involved, and we're all interested in maintaining ethanol. It's been a very good market for us. but this isn't the way to do it. But we need to find some manner here that the people are represented first, not the corporations.
Two things. First of all, they say they're dropping our, I mean, so far I have no knowledge that our rates are being taken. I haven't seen a thing. So I yes. Second of all, I listened to the Brown County Commission meeting where they spoke to them, and one of my concerns there was they promised they would, like our EMTs, our firemen, the emergency stuff, they promised by the time construction started, they would have a written plan that they're gonna provide a grant. But I don't trust that they're going to do it. I guess I don't know where we sit as far as having something set. They're gonna need equipment. In McPherson County, we need Frederick, Ipswich, Eureka, Long Lake, all of them trained as well, because they're all gonna respond. So I guess that's a concern of mine too. They have this promise of a grant by the time they start construction. They should have that all planned way in advance of when they start building.
So under our ordinance, that is a requirement that they have to have a plan put together with, emergency management and fire departments and that kind of stuff locally, in case of a rupture or something like
Do
that.
they
So-
have to have the money and proof of the money and proof of the plan, or just say they have it?
It's gotta be, we have to have a written agreement. There's gotta be a written agreement, to have all that in place. If, by chance, so let's say, I'm gonna go back and read the ordinance again, but from my recollection of it, how that would work, let's say we get a written agreement put together, do the training, all that stuff. It comes time for them to start construction, and nothing has gotten done as far as equipment here, or whatever it may be. I'd have to see if it'd be the commission or the zoning board, the county, we'll just say, would ultimately have the right to pull their, permit at that point. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that, does that include our ordinance? I don't remember reading it, that they have to train around us, or is that only gonna be legal?
It's just the general area, so what if I would be making the decisions there, what I would recommend, and they're gonna be in contact with Sheriff Ackerman on that, cause he's the McPherson County Emergency Manager. That training should happen, obviously for Leola, cause that's the closest one, but also for Long Lake and Eureka. I would say if there's any equipment that's necessary, Leola would probably be the best place to keep that, probably some in Long Lake. If they're gonna be using the same route generally as there was before. But, the reality of it is anytime Long Lake gets a fire call, I'm on both Long Lake and Eureka Fire Department. Anytime Long Lake gets a fire call, either Leola or Eureka is called as well. Anytime there's anything bigger, that's going on, you're getting all three responding. If there's a rupture in this pipe, you're gonna have all three responding to that,
And do
so.
they have in their guidelines or regulations, the EMTs, the firemen, if it's something that puts them at danger, do they need to?
Well, here's how I believe this is gonna happen. If it gets that far, they're gonna come to us for a conditional use permit, okay? By issuing a permit, we can put any conditions that we would like. And that's where I believe that this is gonna get covered. We're gonna say we want X amount of equipment in Eureka, Leola, or whatever. And if they do it, they may get the permit. If they don't, they don't. That's where it's gonna the rubber's gonna hit the road. And like Austin said, if there's stuff that they promise in writing certain things and it doesn't happen, we have the right to pull the permit. So as you know, the zoning portion of the county sometimes, yeah, you gotta get a permit for this, permit for that, but that's kinda how you regulate some of this stuff. And I am very thankful that we did do what we did. We've got a good board that we work with, and it was nerve-wracking because there was a lot of pressure from both sides. But, in the end, I feel that we put some pretty good safeguards in place, and I'm not gonna really deviate from it, so.
And I think everybody in this room knows this already, but our hazardous material pipeline ordinance is by far the most stringent in the entire state. I mean, it's not even close. So, I'll be the first to tell you, there's a few things in there that I'm concerned about if they'd be upheld in court, but honestly, especially after this last letter from M. Shaw, I think we're sitting pretty good with it, so.
And you're an attorney, I guess, that.
They tell me I am. I mean,
Yeah, there's two things. The third thing to me is liability, because we had our cattle scooped out of the pasture, now out, a little bit anyway. So what happens if they would hurt on the surveyors, they would hurt them, they're constructing the pipeline, and they get hurt, they're going through, who's liable? I mean, where do we sit, you know?
I'm not sure on that, to be honest with you.
I asked the
don't know.
sheriff about it, he said, well, probably you, I don't know, but let's just hope it never happens. I'm like, well.
I would have a hard time seeing a judge uphold liability on a landowner for somebody that is on their property doing a construction like this is. So it would be, I have a hard time seeing that.
We kinda had a similar issue with school end and
Yep.
open to public hunting. And the hunters are supposed to stay 660 feet away from cattle.
Right.
But we've asked the same question, who's liable if there's a cow
goes
goes
off
off
on
on
them?
and we never really get a straight
I
answer.
don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you, I'm not sure.
So Kim, that lawsuit where you were naming of FEM and Valley and McPherson County, do you know what's the status of that? Have you been dismissed from that one? And that was for I think that was for right-of-way crossings?
Yeah.
Oh, the surveys or the eminent domain?
Well, there was that one lawsuit where McPherson County,
That was the beginning of the eminent
Okay.
domains.
We haven't seen anything that's
Haven't heard anything.
dismissed yet.
I wanted to come back around to that as well. There are a significant number of those lawsuits throughout the state. And I do know that they have started dismissing those. It just might frankly take some time, because it's not like that's just a, you know.
Are
it's
you
not-
served again, then, a certified mail, or served
If-
again by the sheriff?
If
that
you,
is
no,
filed?
there wouldn't be anything, service necessarily like that. It would be, if you have an attorney there's an attorney of record, on file,
You okay?
they would get notice of that, yep.
As of this time yesterday, 13 of them in McPherson County had been released, and there was more coming into Rhonda's computer when I left there about this time yesterday. It's possible she has them all already, I don't know.
So, let me ask a question, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. You know, when he says, we may go around McPherson County, anybody have a problem with that? Just ask.
Sorry for the county they're gonna go to.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it, you know, we shove our problems to somebody else.
So, you want my take on that?
Yeah.
My take on that is that was a veiled threat.
It was what?
It's called a veiled threat, and here's why. And here's the other side of it, the reality of it is there's a possibility of that project bringing somewhat of a substantial amount of money, one way or another, into the county. So the reason he said that is that if we go around, you're not getting any more money. Yeah.
I don't think they-
Correct. You're not getting any of your money.
Well, yeah.
But see, there's a commonality when they were here, which it was January 4th of 2022. He also made that same statement that, you know, where we can go around McPherson County. So they haven't changed one bit.
how many different faces have we seen? I'm seriously, I wanna know,
20?
yeah. I'd like to actually know how many different people have been in zoning and.
Nobody's
been in zoning. No, there's been.
Dan Peterman and, Rick Kennedy.
Oh, that's right, they did come to the zoning.
Has
Yeah.
the same person been to any of the same?
This,
meetings?
the
guy.
one gentleman that was talking, I've seen him here before.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
parole.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
See,
How,
Oh.
how, I don't know
Yeah.
how, I said it wrong. I said it wrong.
Two Jimmys.
I guess, Jeff, could you just run everybody through, you know, the, as far as the setbacks, McPherson County has a variance system in place. And can you explain how that process will work? Because that's different than Brown County having a waiver.
We've got both.
Well, we've got both, yes.
There is both.
Let's say pipeline's going by your place and it's 3/4 of a mile, our setback is a mile from the residence. It's 3/4 of a mile, they come to you, they negotiate. You say, well, yeah, I think I can live with that. You can sign this waiver, everything be fine, okay? Next time around, it's coming by your place, you don't sign that waiver. They can't apply for a variance, which we would have a hearing, which would be with the zoning board. You'd show up, they'd show up. If you don't come to terms with them, variance won't be granted. If you do, well, we grant them a variance. That's kinda how that works, right, Austin?
Yeah,
So you do have a tiered system
Yeah.
there, then the landowner.
But
has
it
to
can be avoided if you sign that waiver, but,
they would still technically need a variance even if you sign the waiver, I think.
that's what I was
But-
wondering.
Yeah, they would.
Formality.
Yeah, exactly, yes, that's just a formality at that point. Here's the, and if somebody signs a waiver that they don't care if the pipeline comes within 200, 300 yards of their house, that, I mean, that's their personal choice, so I don't,
But, you know, the way I look at it, this whole thing, it's all about money, it's not saving, it's not about saving the world. But I just don't see, and when you think about it, how much carbon they're gonna spew in the air to build this darn thing and to compress this stuff and pump it, and you know, all in the name of this Green New Deal.
And they're using
Stuff.
ethanol and stuff.
And they're,
Yeah.
and it's all just tax dollars. So, it's all about money. I mean, if
If they wanted to be honest, they'd come right out and say it.
yeah, I mean,
It's all just a sales pitch.
and if they come to you and the money's right and you think it's okay, you do what you wanna do. I'm just here to put our regulations in place and for the people who don't want it.
But they keep bringing up, you know, what would the public think? I get so tired of that, it has nothing to do with the public thing. It's not a public vote, it's not a popularity thing. If there's a 1/4 mile, everything else is signed and there's a 1/4 mile that one person doesn't want, it's tough luck. It's not about how popular it is. It's a private property thing.
I wish that everybody that keeps talking about it would quit tying it in with the electrical lines and the water lines and the power lines as far as using them in the domain crap.
Well, that's a little bit different, though. I mean, that can be explained.
Well, they compare it to, they say it's the same, it isn't.
It's not.
It's even been compared to a railroad. It's the same as a railroad, I heard somebody say, are you serious?
So as far as the ordinance and stuff, say this thing does go through, somebody signs, it's within a 1/2 mile, they sign and let it go through. Say something happens, that land comes up for sale, somebody else buys it, and they come back through, they're gonna put another one in, or however it be. Since the previous owner signed that, can the new landowner contest that, or is it?
not,
I highly doubt it.
To be deeded, wouldn't it?
so that agreement would consider, that's attached to the land, not the landowner. So if me as a landowner, let's say I sign a waiver for that pipeline to come within, let's just say 500 yards of my house, 10 years later, I move, you buy my property, that agreement that has previously been signed will still stand for the pipeline that's in the ground.
Okay.
However, it would not be good for
Anything.
another pipeline in the future. Correct. That is, and that's, these forms, we've got all these forms done. They'll be put on the website here, hopefully by the end of the week. That's on me, frankly. But those forms, we specifically made the waiver in that case to be specific to the pipeline itself, whichever one is coming through, and not just pipelines in general. So, if that answers your question.
I have a question.
with, the safety part of it, that, they say, do you really trust all this time they haven't come up with a plan for our safety, equipment and everything? So they can start the pipeline and tell us that they're gonna be ready for that and you're gonna get that equipment. What if they just defer it until you don't really receive the knowledge or the equipment? You know what I'm saying? That,
The county will have the authority to pull the permit then.
Yeah.
yeah,
They
but once
pull
they
back
start, are you really gonna pull that permit?
Well, sure, yeah. And ultimately, the process there is we pull the permit. If they continue construction or continue use of the pipeline, we take it in front of a judge and get injunction for them to stop what they're doing. Judge rules in our favor, then they have to stop. If they don't, they're gonna be held in contempt of a court order, and then that's gonna be a real bad day for them, so.
You hope the judge would.
Yeah, well, we've been in front of the judges and we thought they would vote our way and they haven't, so I'm just saying, I was wondering if there's a possibility of deceit, which we've been very deceitful.
Oh, there's a possibility of that.
And, they make these promises that they just get up here and told you that you're gonna get this equipment. They've had 2-3 years to come up with a plan, even before going to the Capitol. And they never come up with one. So I'm just really wondering if they're as honest as they say they are gonna be now. It just worries me, because once a project started, and, I wouldn't trust them.
Well, I don't think until a permit would be granted, they cannot start, not in the county. I mean, they
They
can
were
build all
telling
of
us that before, though.
Right, I understand that, but
It was a total bluff job,
Right,
until a few counties actually enacted some ordinances and stood up to them.
Well,
And
and
FEMSA
that-
backs us up
and
now.
that Judge Summers, he totally dismissed everything. So,
What are the chances of the PUC overruling, let's say they wanna go 500 yards from your house, you won't sign, what's the chance of the PUC coming in and saying, McPherson County, you gotta let them through?
We don't know.
It's just a
Can't
gamble
answer
out
that
there.
I mean, I can't remember if it was email or when we talked about this, maybe it was at a meeting. You know, Mark has previously brought it up at some point, I can't remember when, but that the PUC has never overridden county ordinances before. And while I would like to see that precedent stand in the future, the reality of it is they do have the right to do it, so I would say the likelihood is less that they would, but it's always a possibility. I mean, it's the reality of it.
I guess if that's a possibility of happening, we'd have to defend our decisions for coming up with our setbacks. And I think we really can. For one thing, we're consistent on our setbacks. We're not discriminating against CAPOs, solar, they're all a mile. The other thing is, you can get through our county with that mile setback. You can. It's not, we're not shutting them out. And even if there's better routes, they can get through with variances and waivers, if they really.
Out the checkbook. You know,
Yeah.
they talk about wanting to be transparent, more transparent. Where we really need to hold their feet to the fire is your investors. That would be a good start of transparency. Oh, it's a complicated list.
Yeah.
Hit print. I'll supply the paper, It's not very complicated to send it electronically,
I think Chris Nelson's explanation of why they didn't override the counties was kind of illegal. Don't remember the whole bits of it. He's the one that worries me on there always, but it just didn't seem to fall into the law either. The pipeline didn't seem to fall into where they would override it. I don't remember the wording right now.
Cause he was talking about how they're able to do that for energy interests of South Dakota
So there was
citizens.
no energy
And there
proven.
is no energy being
That
provided for any
South
South Dakotan out of this system, so.
They might come up with one now. Yeah, that's what it was.
I would just like to add to, so did he say that they were, with their new route, they would like to add a distribution plan? Is that the plume? Is that what I'm hearing, that they would like to provide?
Said they gave it in Brown County this morning, didn't they?
Well, he said Spink and Brown, I think, have received it, so they're, what I took of that is they're gonna be looking to meet with each of the county's emergency managers to, go over that plume study.
But it's not gonna be public knowledge as of now, or was it already?
I'm not sure on that one.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's anything we can add in a county ordinance to see that before they get the permit, you know? I mean,
I know
I feel
that.
as people that would be living by, we should have the right to it, to see it. But
When the PUC was looking at navigators, I think they required Navigator to release that, if I remember correctly, so my hope and thought would be that if Summit reapplies through the PUC, that's gonna be a condition of, the permit for the PUC.
And keep in mind, Navigator did release it, but that is the company's example.
Right.
They're gonna show you more of what they want you to see, the expert that testified who has his doctorate and that stuff in computer fluid dynamics. And, he says that was not accurate. And so the possibility of seeing it is one thing, trusting the accuracy of it is another step.
Well, the PUC wouldn't accept it, would they, because they said it wasn't?
They said it was a good start.
They said it was a good start, but don't live and die by the accuracy of that projection.
But we won't see it in time for us to say, oh my God, 1 mile's not enough.
I think just
You know,
assume it.
And it's gonna
Pardon
look
me,
just assume
different
it.
out where I
Yeah.
live versus somebody east of town, it's gonna look different out in hills than it's gonna look east of
Well,
town.
should you have two studies on that? Why would you just have the
One bias
company study? Shouldn't you have? I
Cause
mean,
that's the way they want it.
Wow.
Cause that's the way they want it, they want
Yeah,
it
but
like theirs.
I
Hey,
think you should have
hey,
an
in the
impartial one.
In the end, as long as I'm on the zoning board, when we're issuing a conditional use permit, we're gonna ask for stuff like that. And
I vote for Jeff.
You're never getting off now.
no, really, seriously,
Kind of your guess.
that's what we can do. We can put the condition on there, hey, you want this permit?
And open to the public to
Yeah.
see too, not just you.
Well, if it's provided to the board, any board, that's public information at that
Absolutely.
point, period.
Well, no, it's
appreciate
provided to
everything. Excuse me.
it's provided to the PUC board, well, it's not really a board, a panel, and we didn't get to see it, because it was done confidential.
Nah, I don't agree with that. I think, did anybody ever actually file a Freedom of Information Act to get that? I think we have a real damn hard time keeping that.
Confidential.
I appreciate everything you guys did here in this commission in the beginning, and everything you said to them as well as to us. But I think with a company that's been as devious and hiding their things like they started out in this, you're gonna have to be really sure that they're gonna test your metal. They're gonna push the envelope here and here and here. You gotta stand your ground right from the beginning. That's the way I feel about them anyway. I don't trust them either.
I guess there's just one
They're
more,
like government.
there's just one more thing that I'd like to, in guise of being transparent and putting out there. Is there an appetite or a desire for another moratorium?
You know, and I've been thinking about that, I talked to my brother about it too, but Brown County, other counties have comprehensive, county plans, like a 5-year, where does the county wanna be? I know like Glenn does you do something for the roads, don't you?
Well, I've got a plan, most of the counties do a 5-year road plan, because, it falls into the big program for the bridge grants. If you wanna apply for those grants, you have to be, doing a 5-year road plan, and you have to have a wheel tax. If you don't have a wheel tax, you can just, that's why we haven't done, anything like that. We have a plan, it's just that.
But I think if the county would have a comprehensive plan, the road plan would be part of it. And then it'd be every little detail, it'd be probably a lot of made up stuff, but.
It's a guideline. You
Yeah,
can't
what
go by it.
wages wanna be in 5 years, just go down the list. Where do we wanna be with the courthouse? I think a guy could put a, moratorium on for something like that, but.
Well, there's two criteria according to state law that counties are able to put on a moratorium for the initial 12 months with the option to renew for an additional 12 months. Number one is the planning and zoning, which we've already done and has been satisfied, and appropriately that moratorium has come to pass. But the second option is for a comprehensive plan. So it is possible if there's the, like I said, if there's the desire or the want to do that.
Okay. Personally, as far as putting another moratorium on, I am hesitant to do that. I think it did its job. It gave us the time to get our ordinances in place. But now we have all of that in place. And as Austin stated, we have the most stringent ordinances in the state, as far as I know.
Well, I've looked at almost all of them, and we do.
So, that being said, I know this room, everybody in this room does not want this pipeline, and I get it. Are there some people out there that do? There could be, I don't know. And they have rights too, so I'm not advocating for this pipeline, but I'm also saying, there's gonna, in the future, there's probably gonna be other pipelines coming through, not necessarily carbon pipeline, there could be gas pipeline, there could be crude oil pipeline, there could be something else, water, type thing, and we have to remember that, some of that stuff, we gotta get through this stuff. So, that's kind of where I'm at.
Is there anything the county can put in their ordinance or anything as far as the shady stuff they did with the survey and all that this time around? Can the county control any of that, or is that all with the state and the law?
Because that's specifically spelled out in state statute, we really, unfortunately, there's no power here locally on that. I will say what I would recommend, there needs to be a push and peer by landowners to change those statutes. I mean, that's where that goes. 'Cause I'll be the first to tell you,